Hey everybody, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle. This is your host, Emmett Muckles. I have a great interview today with a friend of mine, Eric Zosso, from the Downtown Professionals Meetup group and founder of Co-working Space in Valparaiso, Indiana. So stay tuned. All right, welcome everybody to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. This is your host, Emmett Muckles, the Billionaire Lifestyle. Some time ago when I first came to the city from which I live, which is Valparaiso, Indiana, I met this gentleman and he kind of brought me into the fold. And I was looking to network and to find out what was happening in the city because it is a small town. When you have small towns, as most Americans think, they think of us, they have a very specific picture. But this gentleman, this young gentleman, what he did, I said, what do you do? He says, I run a co-working space. And his name is, now, let me get this right, Eric Zosso, right?
Zosso.
Zosso. See,
Yeah.
I've never gotten it right.
No, it's
And
okay.
I've been pronouncing you that way ever since. So, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast, Eric. How are you doing today?
I am doing amazing. Thank you, Emmett.
So, let me ask you one question. What happened to you today that you can remember, that you can say, I can remember this day by?
Oh, man.
I stumped him on the first question.
No, it's, I found out a friend was going through a divorce, and that's unfortunate.
Well, you'll remember that one.
Yeah.
But that's okay because that's life.
Mm-hmm.
That means that's the falling of one energy of life and the unfolding of a new.
Absolutely.
That's all it means. So, Eric, I did a little research on you because I find you an interesting guy because you are one of those people who are kind of like me, and I hope I don't offend you by
Not at all.
And is that you want to bring people together.
Yes.
You want to do good things in your life, and you want to create good energy. Is that fair assessment to say?
I would say that's very accurate, yeah.
So let me ask you something. You are a native of Valparaiso, Indiana, correct?
Born and raised, absolutely.
And then you did something that most people do. You did two things when most people only pick one, which means you went for a higher education, and then you went to the military.
Yes, yeah, you're right. Normally it's just a one or the other.
And then, so tell me about that decision to embark upon that.
Oh, okay. Well, when I was going through college, I was studying something called actuarial science, which is to become an actuary so that way you can help insurance companies figure out how to charge based on how many cars are going to run into an accident over the next 20 years. Very stats and numbers based. And after my freshman year of college, I thought, wow, I do not want to be 20-something and staring at spreadsheets that long. So I was going to school at Purdue, and I switched majors to something way more exciting. I switched to accounting because I figured that would be
more numbers.
Yeah, more numbers, but less hyper-focused. And while I switched to accounting, I also was going with the impression that, while I'm in my 20s, I want to do something fun and enjoyable, and so I switched into Air Force ROTC to try to go the Air Force route because
While you were in school, correct?
While I was going to school,
okay.
Absolutely. And then that put me on a path to, graduate from college and then commission with the Air Force. Basically, the same day.
Was it a progression that you said, okay, I must do this? So when I graduate, because I'm involved with this group, I have to pursue it further, or was it an option? Did you not have to do that, or was it?
So midway through was the decision point, midway through college. If I wanted to continue doing the Air Force ROTC, then that would mean I was going to, upon graduation, join the Air Force for 4 years of active duty.
I got you now.
Yep.
But you went in as an officer, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
See, that's a good thing, though. You go in with higher pay grade.
Yeah, no, that was helpful.
That was good. So when you got there, did you have a vision of what you were going to do before you got into the military?
I had hoped that I would get involved in the space realm of things. So I'm a huge space geek at heart. I mean, Star Wars, Star Trek, I like them both. I'll admit it. Battlestar Galactica, I like that as well. But I really was not confident in my ability to become an engineer, so I went the military route of looking at NASA versus the military space budgets. And
but there's a lot of good stuff to do there in the military or within the military.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I wanted to be involved in the Air Force and be involved in Space Command, and lucked out and got into both. Yeah.
Actually, so tell me that moment where you like, ooh, I'm doing what I want to do. How did that come about? Was it just kind of you were heading towards it? Because sometimes life happens. Life pushes you in the direction where you need to be.
I think when I was just doing it, that was while I was out in Colorado working with the Air Force with a really good group of individuals. We had a pretty tight-knit unit that was doing stuff with GPS. And I don't know, there were a lot of people in my age group, a lot of peer group, and just a lot of people who were interested in the geeky side of space, but also interested in the service side of the military. And yeah, it kind of just came about where it's like, yeah, I'm doing this. This is great.
So is it classified what you did?
I did space operations for GPS. So no, that's not classified.
I mean, in lieu of like our latest political situation where everything was about classified and declassified information, I had to ask that question.
Wow. Yeah.
So you did your time in the military, you learned a bunch of things, and then what happened? You came back, you were discharged from the military, served your time, and then what happened?
Well, actually, so I've not been fully discharged, so I'm still a reservist. So while I was in Colorado Springs, I finished my active duty requirement. So I only had to serve 4 years. I actually served 5 years on active duty. And there was a decision point, do I want to continue for another 3 years or another year or whatever, or do I want to switch over to the civilian side of things? And while I was on active duty, I had a lot of ideas on, oh man, it'd be great to build some sort of like public house, almost like a bar, but not necessarily like a sports bar, but a bar where you hang out with people, have like good beers, that kind of thing. Kind of like a tap room.
A beer garden.
Yeah, a beer garden. And ultimately, though, I figured it would be better to pursue the business ventures if I was not working already like 50 hours a week with the Air Force. So left active duty, moved back home because if I tried the business ventures and they failed, I figured I could move back in with the parents before I go find a job.
That helps.
Like a real job. But yeah, so I moved back.
So you moved back and you were moving back with the intent with an intent.
Yes.
And how did you, I mean, like, what was the time span? Because nobody lands. Well, there are some people who do. They land and they hit the ground running and things happen. Were there any hiccups along the way? Did you have a clear-cut idea of what you wanted to do at the time you were coming back here?
I thought I did, yeah. I thought I had a clear-cut idea of what I was going to get into, but then I moved back and found Breaking Bad, which was a really good show. And I was like, oh, man, I'm basically on vacation. So I spent like almost a couple of weeks, maybe more. I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, enjoying my time off of active duty. But while I was still in Colorado and when I first moved back, I had an idea of what I wanted to get into. And I didn't really pursue that right away. I actually one part of what I wanted to do was to start a business in training, of all things. So you have a background in that.
Very much so.
And because I was, background in the military with GPS stuff, still doing training. But wanted to work from like an environment that I felt comfortable in.
Okay.
And figured I wanted to work in a co-working space because I read a lot about them online while I was, daydreaming of starting a business. Figured, okay, I need to be in a co-working space because then I'd be around other people who are starting their own business or running their own startups or whatever. And couldn't find one here in Valparaiso. So
that's one of the things that struck me because when you told me, I have a co-working space, you usually think new gentrified cities of a certain size. Right. Now Valparaiso has less than 50,000 residents. It probably has less than 40,000 residents.
Right.
And that may be when school's in. Is that true? Because Valparaiso University is here in Valparaiso, Indiana.
Yep.
So there, when I moved here, I came here because of a position, and kind of was like, wow, this is a small. When I saw Orville Redenbacher sitting on the bench out there, I just kind of. But you don't expect to see a co-working space, or maybe even see that kind of demographic who's going to lend themselves to a co-working space, because it's a very family-friendly town. Like I call it Mayberry 2016.
That's fair. Yeah. Or almost a little bit like downtown Disney. If you go downtown Valpo, it looks like.
It is downtown Disney. That's a good one.
I like it.
That's a good one. That was a good one. So when you were thinking about the concept, you said, I know this co-working space thing will work and there's people. How did you say, I will build it and they will come? Or did you just kind of get some reconnaissance and say, okay, this is viable?
I guess kind of a hybrid. So there was a project ongoing trying to build a co-working space here in the area, but they were running into quite a bit of hangups because they were looking for a project that probably would have cost a couple $1 million to get started. So they were looking for outside funding, inside funding, and it seemed like the timeline was pretty long. As that started to slow down, I thought okay, maybe we can just do something really, really, really small.
And simple.
Yeah. Like, okay, what's the minimum? Like, we need some desks and chairs and internet. And
it's nice in here.
Hey, thanks. It's evolved a lot, so you can't really see here on the podcast. But yeah, it started with 500 square feet and a lot of colors of brown, and we've moved up to 1,000 square feet and some different coloring and different furniture. It's evolved probably around 4 times.
So let me ask you something. Who was your first client?
My first client was Dana Liss from Concept Marketing and Design in Hobart.
You just dropped a shameless plug for her.
Yeah, absolutely. Dana's amazing. Does like your whole brand.
She's a branding
marketing agency. Yeah.
So what's her website?
Her website is.
That's okay. I mean, he's going to give us this website shortly here, so don't worry. It is on its way as he's furiously typing and I'm talking into the microphone.
Okay, so the website. Yeah. Oh no, that's not it anymore.
That's okay. We can wait.
Yeah. So Dana joined us just over 2.5 years ago. She was actually, that website's not working. We may need to talk to her about her website. So but if
they're going to look for her now.
Yeah,
Whoever hears this, they will look for her.
She may have stopped taking new customers. Actually,
see that's a sign of good business.
You don't have. Yeah, actually,
I just saw future CEO walk. I mean, go by in someone's arms. So that's the cool thing about the co-working space. Now, let me digress a little bit.
Okay.
For those who are not experienced or even know what a co-working space is, can you define it for me?
Sure. Let me ask you this, Emmett. Do you work out from home?
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to stay dedicated working out pretty easily?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So the co-working space is a little bit like a gym, but for business. Just like you could work out from home, you can work from home, which is true.
Okay.
But not everyone has the discipline to work out every day. Just like not everyone has the discipline to stay super focused. But when you go to a gym, besides like looking in the mirror and flexing, you also want to work out because that's what you're there for.
Motivation.
Absolutely.
You know what? I actually do understand that. And so what are some of the things that to provide a co-working space, other than the physical space itself,
right?
What are some of the things that you provide for those inhabitants of your co-working space that makes it easier for them?
A peer group. That's the main thing. That's the best part about it, because you can always, find an office and add internet and put some desks in, and
yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of accountants and real estate people who are like, oh, we're going to set up a co-working space because the price per square foot will make, an amount more over the standard rate. But really, what we have here is like a group of, it's like your peers, your coworkers, even though you're not working for the same company.
So having said that, what about with the infrastructure as far as, amenities and things like that?
Okay, so we do have super, super fast internet. We have 1 gigabit per second, both upload and download. So that's about 1,000 megabits per second, which is really, really, really fast. So basically the fastest internet here in the town is here at this co-working space.
So I need to just come hang out.
Oh, yeah, totally. You can plug in. We have Wi-Fi. We also have ports available.
So is there a membership fee? Is there a rental? How does that work? Is it annual? Is there like a subscription base or something like that?
So we go monthly, kind of like a gym. Like personally, I don't like long-term commitments myself. So we do month-to-month memberships. So $99 a month will get you in 24/7 for a month, or $179 if you want your own dedicated space where you want to set up like podcast equipment or your own computer monitors.
So do you have are there meeting rooms here? Because one thing about business, a lot of times what you will do is you have to confer with outside people, and you don't want to do it in your home because there's a growing community of people in this country, and that's what a lot of the billionaire lifestyle is about, is just living your lifestyle the way you envision it. And it doesn't have to be in the diaspora of what has been traditionally thought of, especially now. That's why I actually love your generation, because I'm
cool,
because you're redefining the space where you can humanly occupy. So you don't have to have a 9 to 5 job where you take an hour, half an hour lunch. And I've seen this from my daughter in the fact that you're just like, I want to get what I need to have so that I can do the things that I need to do and live.
Right.
And so, having said that, these co-working spaces are starting to just kind of crop up across America. The first one I seen was in Detroit when I was there. And then there was just a plethora of them in San Francisco. But when I saw it in Valparaiso, Indiana, I was just amazed. But that wasn't the apex of it. I also saw that you were building a community of individuals. You're bringing people together. So there are people that aren't here, but they're affiliated with you and the co-working space because of the other projects that you have. Can you name some of those or what you're doing around town?
Yeah, one thing that I'm working with a group of people on is something called the Downtown Professional. Basically, what you mentioned earlier was, it's a little bit like Downtown Disney, but a little bit like Mayberry. But what that really means is the population group is, we have a lot of kids, we have a lot of families with kids. We also have a good amount of aging and retired population because it's a very great community to be in. But the one age group that we're lacking and there's a noticeable void in is actually that 21 to 35-year-old crowd.
That is true. But it's not an old community.
It's not. No,
it is not. So I don't want people to think it's like Florida. I don't want people,
no, it's not like Florida.
I don't want people to think it's Florida or Arizona. It's not that. It's just that age group that you've defined is underrepresented. That's the best way to say it.
It is underrepresented. Most of the businesses aren't really serving that age group because they're not necessarily here. So a group of us, I guess, in that age group, we're trying to figure out, okay, what could we do instead of saying, oh, someone should do something about it. I mean, that's a waste of time. So we figured, well, why don't we make an event and invite people in that age group to just hang out, get to know each other, not make it necessarily super formal business networky, which you often will see in areas like this.
That's true. That's what I expected. And you sorely surprised me because I saw so many people doing so many things. And it's not just that, people just trying.
Yeah.
That was the beautiful part. People who are just trying to get it done in their lifestyle. They see what they want and they envision it and they're like, I'm just going to go for it and try my best and let people know this is who I am. This is what I am trying to accomplish. at this point in my life right now. Are you're doing some things with the Chamber of Commerce as well?
No, the co-working space is a member of the Chamber of Commerce.
That's what it is.
But we're not really doing anything with them outside of that.
So outside of the meetups, so you have the meetups.
Yep.
You have the co-working space. Mm-hmm. You also have the tech meetup that I've only been to one
Okay.
And what is Provito?
Provito?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my ongoing project. So I have the co-working space, but then I wanted to do more than just like have an office space.
Okay.
And it was actually started to do real estate and like a real estate project, taking into account how people will move pretty frequently. Mm-hmm. So like trying to build a way to build equity while renting, not rent to own, because that's basic. I don't want to call it a scam, but it's tough. Like rent to own is tough because if you're not living in the same location for 30 years, it doesn't work.
Or if you don't pay it off really rapidly.
Right. And well, with the billionaire lifestyle, you want to be able to move, go somewhere, and it seems like there should be a way where you can rent for a year, rent for a few months, and still own a portion of equity in, say, a holding company that owns multiple properties.
That's an awesome idea. Now I just got what you were saying. That makes total sense, because in the last couple of years, I've rented, and I was actually just done with owning a home.
Okay.
I was just done. Because of my lifestyle, I'm always on the move.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, why do but then I got married. So when you get married, mama's got to have a place just to be and make her own. So, so I've become an ingrained citizen of the state of Indiana.
Welcome. It's a good place to be. Absolutely.
This is recent, like 2 months ago. And I've been here for like 4 years.
Well, it's good to claim you a legit resident now.
It's about time, though.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you about some of your heroes. When I came into the building and before we came to the room and got everything set up, you asked me, what was the question you asked me? You went to the board.
Oh, yeah. I asked you, what is your favorite book?
And I said, it's the 4-Hour Workweek. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite book?
So there's this really cheesy sci-fi comedy called Old Man's War. And John Scalzi is the author, and it's hilarious. It's not a business book. It's a full-blown like sci-fi comedy book.
You don't have that second. It's a business book.
Oh, okay. A business book. I really, really like Good to Great.
I think I did that one on audiobook. I can't remember. I consume like Audible is just madness.
Oh, Audible's amazing, especially if you drive a lot.
I listen. Let me go back again. So for me, a couple of years ago, and this is part of the billionaire lifestyle, which is I realized I had to step away from the programming, which is television and media, because if you watch it, it will influence your thought processes and things that you're doing.
like what do you mean?
So if this includes Facebook as well, because if you look at, for instance, television tells you who is good, who is not. It tells you how you should look. It tells you how you should approach life, when the human condition is far greater than this niche that television, media, news, even the internet now is starting to just bombard you with. So I made it my point to consciously consume my entertainment and media, which is, for the most part, I don't listen to radio.
Okay.
Very rarely listen to radio. I consume 90% podcasts. The rest are audiobooks when I'm in my car or I'm traveling.
Okay.
When I'm at home, I consciously pick those shows that I want to watch and they don't have commercials. So I just steered away from that, and I found out that my level of psychology changed, where I'm far more open about things, but I'm far more staunch about things because I formulated my own opinion to it. I know that was kind of deep, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that is deep. And And by avoiding like advertising barrages, then you're able to.
Yeah, because to me it came down to some information that I read, which is about propaganda. So there was this campaign started by Edward Bernays.
Okay.
Edward Bernays is like the king originator of propaganda because, and I might not get this exactly right because it's just kind of off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But back in like the 40s and 50s after the war, he said, you don't need to give the people facts. You need to stimulate their emotion to get them to do what you want. So then you look at, I'll give you, for instance, and this used to get me good. Romantic comedies.
Okay.
You can't tell me after a romantic comedy, you don't feel more emotional about your significant other.
Right. Yeah. No, you're spot on.
And they do that on purpose. They figured out a formula, and every romantic comedy has the same elements. They just change the characters, change the plot line a little bit, but they end up the same way. They take these paths, and they end up the same way. So I started realizing I'm going to consciously let myself into these modes versus just go willy-nilly and let it consume me.
Right. So instead of action reaction, there's a choice. Kind of like that's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That one.
I think I did. No, I haven't even read that one yet.
No, it's pretty good.
That'll be on
Stephen Covey, I think.
That'll be on the audio list because I just got 12 new credits.
Nice.
So, where do you see yourself in the future? And I'm not going to give it a timeline of what do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you see yourself?
Thank you for not doing that.
I literally hate that question because life is so dynamic, especially nowadays. You cannot just mold yourself and say, I mean, there are some niches to that. You can say, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be an accountant. I'm going to have a house. I understand that. But when people say, as far as where you see yourself in 5 years, that could be totally different because I've experienced that myself. Actually drove myself to like this point, but I didn't see where it was going to lead me. I just knew where the end result would kind of be. So when people say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Older?
Yeah, that's one step. Absolutely.
But what's your are you taking it by as it comes? Or are you saying, I'm going to plan this out step by step? Or are you going to say, I'm going to watch the bricks in front of me and take my steps accordingly to how the bricks landed before me?
I don't know if I'm thinking that close ahead. And I'm definitely not planning anything out meticulously, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, it seems like each time I come up with an idea, I'll like shift direction pretty quickly.
But you're way under 40. You can do that.
That's right. I'm 30 years old, so I've got...
Oh, shut up. You made the 3-0, huh?
I made it. Yeah, I'm there. So that's pretty exciting. But I think where do I want to be?
There may be some ventures, and this is why I hate to ask this question.
Okay, right.
But you might say, in the future, I see myself having more involvement with my community, teaching more, because it can be open-ended because you don't know where life is literally going to take you, because I ask life for things and they give them to me, but it's not how I pictured.
That's fair. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I want to teach people. I want to speak to like thousands of people a year. And they gave it to me, but it's vastly different than the vision
than how you thought. Yeah, absolutely. So myself in the future, like I'm pretty happy with my own community involvement currently. I've been way more active in the past 2 years than I was in the 5 years when I was in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. So I worked previously with a really close-knit team, but I was isolated from the community I was in. Now I work really closely with the community, but I don't have a super sharp, I don't have a day-to-day team that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And so in the future, I what I'm working towards is being part of a team that's focused on a similar objective with some just really great people.
So you just want to build your nucleus.
I just want to be around great people and work on something that, we're passionate about and disciplined enough to keep working towards.
All right. So usually I try to keep the interviews less than 35 minutes, usually 31 minutes. We are at 29 minutes and 45 seconds.
Holy cow.
It goes by fast.
It does. It? Wow.
I know. Exactly. So let me ask you something. How can people contact you?
Okay. They can contact me. Well, if you're not in the Northwest Indiana area, I would say LinkedIn for Eric Zosso, ERIC, as in zebra, OSSO. But really the easiest way, just text me. It's 219-488-2689. You can text me there or email me at eric@weprovito.com, which is a mouthful, WEPROVITO.
That's what we spoke up on that group earlier, correct? Provito.
Provito, yeah, that's the company I started the beginning of January.
Okay.
And just reach out to me. I'm always looking to meet new people. And if you're like in Valparaiso or visiting Valparaiso or in Chicago and you want to go somewhere like way cooler, then I'll buy lunch or hang out. And we
have the best That's the thing about the restaurants here. That amazed me alone. The first place I went to was Pigs.
Nice.
I landed there and I had a bone-in ribeye. I can remember it like it was yesterday. A mashed potato that was bigger than my head. A baked potato was bigger than my head, and the cream spinach. Oh, and Jameson's. But that was then. So let me ask you, I'm going to ask you, there's a few other points I want to hit.
Sure.
Elon Musk.
Amazing. Yeah, no, he's definitely someone who has an idea of what he thinks should happen and what he wants to see accomplished, and then puts his own energy and fortune into making that happen.
All right. Rockets, model rockets. Do you have any?
I do, yes.
And where do you fly them?
The most recent time we flew them this past summer in 2016 was there's a subdivision out here in Valparaiso, towards the outskirts of Valparaiso.
That's not hard to get to.
No, it's not. I used to fly them. There's a park called Valparaiso, which was a community-built park, which was a really fun project where everyone in the community came together, built this like cool playground, and there's also a large field out there, so launching rockets out there. Yep.
All right, and the last thing I'm going to ask you about.
Okay.
Building a business from scratch.
It sucks.
So I saw that about you, and I had to laugh to myself because building a business from scratch, where the final part is, but it's like being a baby and knowing what you want to be when you're an adult.
Yeah.
But you don't know how to start to walk, crawl, feed yourself. You know where you want to be, but you don't know the little starter things, and it's the itty-bitty things that count.
Oh, yeah.
So this is what I always say. This is part of my thing when people ask me, how do you start a business? I say, here's what you do first. Just do it. Whatever, if it's an action, go perform that action and try to get paid for it.
That's fair.
If it's a service, like I said, do that service for someone, your mother, your cousin, your church. Try to get paid for it. If it's an idea, try to build it first and then see how much it costs and how much you can get it down. Now, this is the end of our podcast. I'm going to thank you so much, Eric, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Emmett. This was great.
The Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. I keep messing up my own title of my podcast. If you're on Stitcher, if you're on iTunes, or however you're listening to this, please leave us a message. You can contact me, eMuckles, on Twitter. That's EMUCKLES on Twitter. Or you can join the Billionaire Lifestyle Coach page, and I had to put coach because everything else was taken, on Facebook. And you can always reach out to Eric if you have, maybe you just want to ask him a question like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a co-working space or something in my area, or you may just like the guy, just like his voice and want to chop up game with him. That's what I call it. You can reach out to him. You have a Facebook page too? Or is that a private versus do you have a community page?
I have a Facebook page for the co-working space.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And what is the Facebook page for the co-working space?
So facebook.com/Zosso, which spells nothing like it sounds. So it's Z as in zebra, OSECO. Zosso.
Thank you so much. So as I said,
Thank you, Emmett.
please leave us a review on Stitcher, iTunes, Google, Tumblr, wherever you find this. And here's the other thing that you must do. You must remember that someone loves you. Even though you may not believe it, there's someone who really likes you. They're just not telling you. So it's your job to open up your heart and figure out who that person is and return that love to them. The next thing that you have to do is when you get up in the morning tomorrow, look in the mirror. And I want you to look deep into the eyes of the person that's looking back at you. And I want you to realize you're the only person that's like that outside of that mirror, and you're a miracle. Till next time we talk, go live the billionaire lifestyle. Peace.